Welcome to Trojan Talk, and welcome to our guest today. Mike Satter joins me. And Mike, good morning to you on this end of July, practically. We're at the end of the summer months coming up. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Rich. And is it summer? With everything the way it's been, I've kind of lost track of what day, what month. Every day seems a lot like the one before.
It seemed like there's a lot of similarity from yesterday to today. And you've been dealing with maybe one word to describe it would be chaos to some degree since about the 10th or 11th of March. And you and I spoke back in April about the effects of COVID and how that had changed the whole landscape as far as Colby Community College, junior college athletics nationwide. Tell me how your summer has gone in terms of trying to come to grips with what the future holds.
Well, it's early on, and as people were dealing with this, my former boss at Neosho County, in a meeting that I was in with a bunch of people, made the comment that the fastest way to make any of your plans become outdated is to announce them to the public, and that pretty much sums up what's been going on. I've spent the summer, we worked to try and put a plan together for sports to start in August, and we put a plan together for this. We adjusted the schedule when that happens, and about the time we were ready to release an updated basketball schedule, moving games out of after Thanksgiving, since most of our schools were making those adjustments. And the day we were set to release that, the NJCA reached out to a couple of us who do stuff with them and said, hey, what would you think if we were looking at moving maybe cross country and volleyball to the spring? And that was on a Tuesday night. By Thursday afternoon, it was obvious that was the direction it was going to head, not just for cross country, not just for volleyball and soccer, but really for all of our sports. And just from 0 to 100 in no time flat. And now, we're trying to figure out what that looks like. All the sports are moved, so that's what my summer's been, honestly, is trying to figure out what's next.
How difficult has it been? Because you've had to, it's not just Colby Community College, it's all of the junior colleges in Kansas, and this is a national situation. How difficult has it been in rescheduling, let's say, the volleyball schedule to winter and spring, if it were that, maybe just winter, even January and February, basketball, wrestling, and then you just mentioned cross country. I was going to ask, but evidently cross country is going to the spring as well, so there'll really virtually not be any athletic competition other than practices in the fall once school they return to school here in August. Is that correct? So how difficult has been the scheduling process?
Well, cross country currently is not moved. Cross country is left in the fall for right now, and the biggest reason for that is there's really no way to move cross country with indoor track and outdoor track. There's just not a way to realistically add that to the fall season. So cross country for right now is staying in the fall, and if it becomes obvious that cross country can't happen, it would just get canceled. That one they wouldn't move. With track, there's just not a way to do it. As far as scheduling, we're sort of at a standstill right now. All the schools have to nationwide submit by July 27th their intent to what they plan to do for the year, for the whole year, what sports they plan to participate in. Part of what prompted this move by the NJCA was there was every day more and more schools saying, they're canceling all fall sports, or they're canceling all sports for the 2021 school year. So this was an effort to try and kind of stem the tide and slow down the exodus of teams that were canceling. There was a number of football teams who said if we have to play, if the season has to start August 17th, we can't play. The Minnesota Conference did that. So that's changed what's happened. So we have to declare by July 27th, understanding that with the way time moves right now, the spring semester is an eternity away from July 27th. So we have to put in what we intend to do today. From that, the NJCA can then make some adjustments if they need to. They're still trying to firm up dates for national championships because, obviously this happened very quickly. Tuesday night, this wasn't on anyone's radar. By Monday, the Board of Regents had approved it. So there's a lot of moving parts to still try and get ironed out at the national level. And it's kind of like one of the little number puzzles where you have to move multiple pieces around to get number one in the top left corner. Well, before we can get our conference schedule together, the NJCA has to know when their postseason dates are. And once they know their dates, they have to know who's participating so they can decide, or they can determine regions or districts how people are qualifying for nationals. If, for example, a third of the schools in the country say that we're not going to play soccer, then that would change the structure, the format of soccer. So that could change some things. So once they get that, then they can determine the format for qualifying for nationals. Once we know the format, we know the dates we have to be done. From there, we can then work backwards to figure out how to plug in the schedule. Now, we've had some preliminary conversations about it, and it's going to be much different than we've ever had to do. In the past, we put a basketball schedule together, boom, we send that out, away we go. We put a volleyball schedule together, away it goes. With the way this spring is going to work, it's going to have to be a much more comprehensive with officials, the assigners for all of our various sports included in the conversation, taking into consideration travel. For Colby, it'll be difficult. What will ultimately happen for Colby is the crossover between basketball and baseball usually is about 2 or 3 weeks. The middle to end of February to early March is where those cross over. With the change, that crossover now will go much longer, and we'll add volleyball into it. So for us, to be honest, we're kind of fortunate that we don't have as many fall sports. For some of them, the Garden Cities, Dodge City, Hutch, Coffeyville, those schools that have soccer and football and volleyball, the fall is going to be it will be an adventure. So we will have to try and plug it all together to make sure that we don't put a schedule together that has the Garden City football team traveling on the same day that baseball, basketball, softball, soccer, and volleyball are all supposed to be traveling, because there's just no one has the resources to make that happen. So it'll be kind of a jigsaw puzzle to work to put together. It will be a struggle to do, unlike anything we've had to do. Some of the stuff that we've had to figure out is how are officials going to work, because we also have to make sure that we have officials for our games. We have some football officials who, obviously moving to the spring for football, that's going to be different because some of those football officials also work basketball or work baseball. We've got some basketball officials that work games in our conference that are Big 12 baseball officials. Well, by moving basketball later and crossing over more of baseball, that's going to impact that. So, a lot of sports that, traditionally maybe basketball was played Wednesdays and Saturdays, maybe that won't be the case because based on officials and conflicts, basketball, and this is nothing done, just basketball maybe will be Mondays and Thursdays, and football maybe moved to Sundays so that it's on its own day. And, it's going to be an adventure, to say the least, as we try and figure out how to make all the pieces fit together.
Yeah, boy, I can imagine it's almost a nightmare. I guess maybe it is a nightmare. It looks to me like if all of the Colby Community College athletic events are going to happen from, say, the middle of January up through the end of the school year, May, and you're talking about, in our case, Colby volleyball, not cross country, but volleyball, basketball, wrestling, baseball, softball, track in the spring. There might be a juggling act with facilities, because you also have the high school, which we don't know what to do, and finding enough space to do this. It might be that we'll be using that community building longer than we think, just to get both either the high school or the college's events in, right or wrong.
Absolutely, it could be a possibility, and it's never. I mean, the timing of the new event center could not be better with this all, when essentially all worlds are going to collide come spring, and throw in the high school in there with what we don't know what that's going to look like you said, but maybe it is using the community building. two facilities in the event center. It could be times we've got multiple games going on at the same time. Coverage for our athletic trainers. I'm going to have to try and clone myself to be a couple places. I joked with my wife that if this all goes down like it's shaping up, at that point it'll be 9-10 months. I've worked a Monday to Friday 8 to 5 job for the first time in my life, and if this all goes down, we'll have game days pretty much 7 days a week from mid-January through June. So maybe by that point she'll be sick of me and ready to have me out of the house and be back to having home games. But there'll be plenty. If it all goes down, there'll be plenty of sports going on in Colby from really late January through May.
If a fan or a parent wants to know about the schedule, let's say I'm going to just throw out volleyball, when do you anticipate, and will those schedules eventually become available, obviously on the college website, I would think, and the athletic website, but do you have any idea when you think that will be set, and even is there such a thing as set in stone?
If COVID has taught us anything, there is nothing set in stone. The only thing that I can guarantee is that whatever we do is going to probably end up changing. But like I said, the 27th is the date that all the schools have to put their stuff in. I believe the 31st of July is when the NJCA is supposed to finalize all their championships. From there, we can then start working. So it would be, our goal is to get it done as soon as possible. With most of the sports that moved, with the exception really of baseball and softball, they've reduced the number of games dramatically. Basketball is 22 games this year instead of the normal 30. So with that said, we're basically only playing conference games in our various sports, which helps to an extent. It gives us a little bit more time. There's not quite the rush to get the schedule out to coaches so that then they can go try and fill their non-conference schedule, because ultimately the schedule will be determined for them. But we're trying to get it done. I'm hoping that we can have it done by mid-August, but we'll see how daunting of a task it really becomes as we start to try and put it together to make sure that we don't have Colby scheduled to host a basketball, volleyball, and wrestling duel all in the same day. So hopefully early this fall we'll have it put together, but we do have some time before we have to get to that point.
Is school scheduled to start in August as it was originally planned? And when will the students and the athletes start showing up to school? I'm assuming the fall here will be used for practice time and nothing after Thanksgiving. Am I right about that, or am I close?
No, you're correct. So what I keep telling people is that yes, today the fall is scheduled to start as was announced, with classes starting August 17th. I can't guarantee that tonight that's the same. I can't guarantee that in 2 weeks that's the same. But today, that is the plan. That August 17th is when school would start. We'll really have 2 arrival dates for our students and our athletes. The first is coming up shortly. People from our international students that's on the KDHE and the Thomas County Health Department that are on that mandatory quarantine list. That I believe from the U.S. it's people from today, Arizona, and California. That those people will be coming in. I believe it's the 2nd or 3rd, so that they can quarantine for 14 days. We've got things worked out with our food service, so they'll go to the room. We'll be able to deliver food to them, but they'll be able to keep to themselves. And then the weekend before the school, or before classes start, the 17th, is when the rest of those people would be arriving.
How often will the school do temperature checks with students and athletes? Daily?
That's yes, but I mean for athletics for sure. That's part of the plan that's been put out by the National Athletic Trainers Association, the NJCA, and we're trying to work out the details of beyond temperature checks, but actually COVID testing and how that's all going to work. There's still details we're trying to iron out. it's a moving target that you're always trying to hit and figure out how to make it work. And looking at where things were, the NCAA put out a new plan, their return to sport protocol, their third edition of it last week, I believe late last week, and it showed the number of cases nationwide and where, when they announced their initial one, where things were, where they were anticipating based on the trend, where it would be, where we are now. So, it's a moving target, but we're putting a plan in place to make sure that no matter what we do, we're following all CDC and KDHE and Thomas County health guidelines and regulations, keeping our students safe, keeping our campus safe, keeping the community safe, and everything that we do. That's the most important thing.
Well, listen, thank you for visiting with me this morning and today about athletics at Colby Community College. You've given us a lot of insight, and I got to tell you that your challenge and your task has not been easy from the moment this whole thing started in March. And like you said, you've been looking at a moving target on a daily basis. It can't be easy. It isn't easy. And so I know a lot of people have been thinking about you and praying for you and the school and the kids. Everybody, I think, wants to get back to school. I don't think that's a secret. I think kids want to be as normal as possible. But when you have a moving target, it's a challenge, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, what we're trying to sort through is difficult, but in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of people dealing with a lot bigger issues than we are, trying to figure out how to put sports together. So sometimes it seems a little bit daunting, but once you take a step back and, think about what the healthcare workers and all the various people are trying to get through, getting sports back is great, but, keeping society safe and healthy is number one. So we're going to find a way to make sure that hopefully we can do both of them sooner rather than later.
Well, my goal is to maybe talk to you a little more frequently than I have, maybe once every week or 2 weeks, and get an update from you and see the progress of preparation for the new school year and the new athletic season. Michael, thank you so much and have a great day.
Absolutely. Happy to do it, Rich. I appreciate all you do for athletics and Colby as a whole.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rich.